Hey everybody, welcome to the NeurodiverGents Podcast, the podcast where I will be talking about various topics, about ADHD, my experience with ADHD, all that kind of good stuff with, being like neurodivergent, various topics like that, other topics, random things, random stories, hyperfixations, all of this other random stuff, whether it be serious, goofy, just all of the things like that. Thank you for, I just wanted to thank you for clicking on this. I'm still learning on how to go about with doing this podcast, so I apologize if I sound a little awkward. I'm hoping to get more comfortable with this, and to be able to get a bit more used to doing this, because this is definitely out of my comfort zone. But yeah, I just wanted to say that really quick, give a little introduction, a little kind of what to expect with this podcast, and just to say thank you for clicking on this. And hopefully you'll stick around and that this is the podcast for you. I don't have too much planned with this episode, not anything crazy at least. Just to get a feel for this still, just to kind of get used to it, get more comfortable with it, and just kind of build the foundation from this. Because I'm trying to get more into a habit of working on this podcast, because I've been brainstorming, thinking, and just taking notes about doing this podcast for months now, and it's taken me forever to actually sit down and record and do this, because as of right now, this is, I believe, my second recording. I'll be uploading and figuring out the first podcast, or by this time, hopefully when this is released, the first one will be released, but we'll find out about that. But yeah, I've just been struggling a lot with just actually sitting down and doing this podcast because like this is something that I really want to do, but I've just been struggling with the whole thing of committing to just sitting down and doing it. I've just been kind of just like, I wouldn't necessarily say like daydreaming about it, but like just kind of just having it in my head, just having it as an idea and not actually stepping out and doing it. That's been a major struggle with doing this. I don't know if that's like an ADHD thing. It probably is. Or the hesitation of it being out of my comfort zone. It's just a bunch of different stuff with that, with me struggling with it, but I just got to take that first step and just go for it, and I'll get more used to it. And yeah, that's why this is important to me, is doing that. But yeah, I've just been really struggling with it, like just doing this recording. I've been struggling for the last couple hours of kind of doing it, even though it's something that's on my mind all day, every day. I think about it all the time with like doing this podcast and just sitting down and recording. It's really weird on how, even though this is something that I do want to do, and I know that it'll be really good for me, I still struggle with it. And I don't know if with anybody else, but like when you want to do the thing and you're struggling to do it, and you get this struggle in your brain of just like, you got it all set up, you got it all ready, and yet you can't go through with it. I don't know if anybody else is like that. If anybody else is like that, or has like a better explanation or their perspective on it, I would love to hear about that. But that's kind of been my struggle, because like I said, like the last couple hours, I've had my laptop set up, mic set up, everything, and I've just been struggling to take that next step of actually just sitting down and recording. because I really get in my head about it. Like, I really start to overthink it, really get in my head, start overthinking all the things. I start getting, like, insecure. I start overthinking. I start, like, comparing myself to all these other big people out on the internet, all these big people doing these podcasts, big successful podcasts, and, like, I start getting in my head about it. And it's weird because, you know, like, I'm just starting out with this podcast, and, like, I'm beating myself up about it and, like, comparing myself to these people that have been doing it for a long time. And it's really weird because, like, you know, like I said, like, you know, I'm just starting out with this, and I'm already, like, comparing myself and beating myself up for not being as successful as all these other people, or like, you know, like, comparing myself to them already, even though I've just barely started. It's such a really weird, strange thing, and, you know, I'm sure everybody else struggles like that. But yeah, like, if anybody else with their experience with that, with their struggle of that kind of similar things, I don't know if I explained that properly. I feel like I did. But anyway, if anybody else has that kind of struggle, or, like, their instances of stuff like that where you're already comparing yourself to others or whatever, that's another thing I'd love to hear about. And just to kind of get your perspective on it, who's ever listening. Another thing, sorry, with this, I'm going to be all over the place with this. Another thing that I want to incorporate with this podcast is kind of getting, like, a Q&A, like, if you have any questions that you want to be answered or anything like that. It can be topics of ADHD, ADD, all of that neurodivergent stuff, or anything like that. Feel free to write it down and stuff, and I'll look into answering that. I would love to be able to do that. More topics for the podcast and stuff, and to be able to to be able to connect and stuff with that. I would love to be able to do that. The more questions, the better. I would love to be able to do that. I apologize if I end up, like, repeating myself or saying some things over and over again, or anything like that. Or, you know, with me saying a whole bunch. I'm not the greatest at talking, and that's another reason on why I want to start doing this podcast, is to kind of also start working on me getting a little bit better at talking, and, you know, be able to work on that stuff. And I also apologize if, like, I kind of, like, lose my train of thought, or, like, I kind of pause a little bit here and there. Again, you know, part of the experience of this podcast. If anybody, like, I'm just trying to find more things to be able to have people to, like, relate to, or if they've got similar experiences with that. But if anybody else has struggles with that kind of stuff, like their experiences of, like, losing your train of thought, if you have any, like, tips or tricks to be able to help with that, I'd love to see stuff about that. You know, like, I get, like, so in my head about thinking about what I'm going to say next, and it causes me to be, like, thinking a couple steps ahead, and then I'm, like, trying to catch up, and I start to overthink the words that I'm saying, and I get all weird in my head about it, and it causes me to, like, talk funny or talk weird, or, like, I kind of, like, lose what I'm trying to focus on and say. It also doesn't help that I'm still, like I said before, I'm still getting used to this, and I also didn't take any notes or really write anything down or whatever. I'm just kind of going into this or whatever, just kind of running into it, because I just got to take this first step and just kind of get used to it and kind of feel it out. And it's going to be a little rough at first, but I know I'm going to get better at it. But yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate it for listening to me just ramble and stuff, and it really does mean a lot. Again, if anybody has any questions that they want answered, wherever this is going to be posted and stuff, just write down the questions and stuff. I'll be posting this on wherever, like YouTube. Leave it in the comments, all of that stuff. I'd love to hear all the questions, and all that stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I think with going into this first episode and just kind of rambling on and just talking and stuff, I think a good like kind of topic to kind of focus on talking about in this episode is to get a bit more practice with my talking and just talk a little bit more about that subject. I've always had struggles with talking, like pretty much my whole life. I remember when I was really young and I was in school. I think I must have been in about third or fourth grade or whatever. I kind of did like a speech therapy type of thing. It didn't go on for very long. It was just a speech therapy class type of thing, because when I was younger, I really spoke in like a monotone, robotic kind of voice. I still do that now, but it was pretty bad when I was younger. And that was kind of like my earliest memories of, the way I talk, the way I say things and stuff like that. There are times where I'm really good. Well, not really good, but I'm better at talking compared to other times. Then there's other times where I'm just not good at it at all, to be honest. But yeah, it's just like, I get so in my head about what I'm saying, and I start overthinking things and I start overanalyzing things, especially, when I'm in like a group setting of talking to people. Like I start overthinking everything I'm saying and I get all awkward and it makes my anxiety really bad, and it just gets, and I feel like I get all weird and they're like, everybody's judging me over the way I talk. It's like one of those big struggles and insecurities of mine. So I'm trying to learn to be a bit easier on myself about it and not beat myself up about it, and just be a bit more understanding and grow from it with like, my speech, my talking and all that stuff, because I know I'll get better at it eventually. Compared to when I was younger, I've gotten a lot better, and then there's other times where it gets really bad. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's been able to notice it or whatever, but I do also have a stutter. It comes out a lot worse when I'm very stressed, anxious, all that kinds of stuff. Again, another thing I used to really struggle with when I was younger. It used to be really bad, and I used to get so frustrated about it and used to just beat myself up about it so bad. I still kind of am rough on myself now, but I'm kind of a bit more gentle about it. And I try to like catch myself when I am stuttering and realizing that I'm just, anxious, stressed, whatever it may be, and just catch myself and take a minute to breathe and be gentle with myself, because, it's one of those things where I don't want to be rough on myself about it, because there's only so much that I can do with my stutter. As much as I know, it's one of those things that I believe with like my brain and my mouth not being synced up right. And it's just like a really weird thing. Like my brain's moving so fast, or I'm thinking so fast, and my mouth is not working right, and it's just really weird. But yeah, it's just, my speech, my talking, everything, one of my bigger insecurities, because like I said, I just get so in my head about it. And I hear all these other people being so good at talking, and it just makes me jealous about it. And that they're so good at talking. And I mean, I might be giving myself a harder time than I actually should be, because I'm not the greatest at it, I know, but I'm probably not as bad as I think I am. I'm kind of struggling a little bit right now, if you've noticed, because I'm starting to get in my head about it, starting to overthink it. And while doing this podcast, I'm trying to be professional about it, or trying to be, I don't know if I'm trying to mask in some kind of way. I'm hoping with doing this podcast, I become more natural with it, don't have to think about it as much, and just kind of go with the flow with it. That's why I just taking this first step and just going into it more, that I'll get better at it, and just be able to grow with that. And I'm glad that I'm taking this first step with working on this stuff. But yeah, that's just kind of a little bit of an insight type of thing of with my struggles with talking, my insecurities with that. But yeah, if again, another thing, just to see if anybody else relates with it or whatever, with anybody else struggling with talking, their anxieties with talking, overthinking with that, or if you even have a stutter or anything like that, because I don't know if it's something to do with just specifically my stutter, or something to do with my ADHD or all this other stuff, or me getting in my head. But yeah, just anybody else that struggles with talking, struggles with their stutter, things like that, getting in your head about all that things, and your anxiety, I just want you to know that it'll be okay. You're gonna get better at it. If you're struggling with it, you're gonna be fine. Just keep on doing you, keep on being you. And if people are judging you about it, don't listen to them. Continue doing what you want to do, and be comfortable with the way you talk, the way you speak. You're if people are judging you over that or whatever, just continue being you. And if there's things you want to grow at, that's in whatever kind of positive way, continue doing on that, because I know whatever you're struggling with, that with talking, stutter, anything like that, I know you will be able to do better, improve. Because me, looking at myself however many years ago, 10 years ago, I've gotten so much better at it, working at it, analyzing with my talking, and not beating myself up about it. So anybody else struggling with that, I would love to hear about that, or to kind of hear your story, and kind of go deeper into that, and just kind of talk about that, and one-on-one, and and all that stuff. I just want to be able to find more things to be able to relate with people about, and just anybody struggling with this kind of stuff. I know to a lot of people it may just be a small thing, but or some things a lot of people don't really think about, and that's okay if you don't really think about it much. But if you are insecure about that stuff, it's gonna be okay, and I know that you will be able to get better at it, get through it with your struggles with that, and just that you will be able to find other people to connect with about that. But yeah, I hope I was able to get my point across, or kind of have it make sense with talking about my struggles with talking, or if any of it made sense. Again, I'm getting in my head about my talking and my voice and my, you know, talking like a robot and stuff. I hope any of that made sense. I'll get better at it. I'll get better at explaining it, talking about it. I'll probably end up bringing up this kind of topic again in some kind of way. And it might be better next time with me being able to explain my struggles with it, working on it with this type of topic and stuff. But yeah, I hope I get better at that and be able to get everything across with that. But yeah, let's see here. So we're a decent amount into this. I think I did a decent amount of talking with me having my struggles with talking and working on it. I'll do my homework on other things to be able to improve on that, and I'll continue doing my homework on improving this podcast, and hopefully next time with the next episode I'll have a little bit more notes taken, or to be honest, any notes at all taken, so that it's not so all over the place, because this whole point of the podcast is that it's like an ADHD podcast, and that it's to be honest, it's going to be kind of everywhere. I'm not a professional. I'll become a professional eventually. I'll become better at it. But yeah, for now, it's just going to kind of be a little bit everywhere. So please bear with me. If you've made it to the end of this or this far, thank you again. I really appreciate it. It means the absolute world to me. And I can't wait for these next future episodes, these other talks we can have, me setting up getting all the social media stuff situated, to where you can leave comments, questions, other topics we can talk about and stuff, and just be able to connect and grow with this podcast, because that's one of my main goals of this podcast, and I'm going to end up saying it over and over and over again. But I just want to be able to connect and grow with people and just, do better. Just be a better person with everybody else, and and just build a family through social media and through this platform, whatever it's going to be on, and just be able to do all that. So thank you again. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any comments or suggestions to kind of make this workout better, improvements, I would love to hear that, so that I can make this better, to have it as a better experience, because it's for you guys, who's ever listening and all that stuff. Thank you again, and I really do appreciate you guys. But yeah, I think I'll probably just wrap it up here. I think this is a good amount of time, just kind of start all of this off. I'll get better at it. Hopefully I'll get better at this whole thing, be able to work on it more and make everything make more sense. But yeah, thank you again. I appreciate all of you guys, and I hope to see you in the next podcast. And I hope you all have a great day and a great night, whatever time it is that you're listening to this. And I'll see you guys in the next podcast.